in this room is a recent admittee to the California bar. Raise your hand. Do you have your bar number yet? What's your bar number? 322570. My bar number is 38750. That's about 300,000 difference. I want to start off by saying the following. I got a little emotional when I saw the speakers and heard Victoria introduce me, so I've got to sort of catch up a little bit here. I used that question about the bar numbers because I wanted to tell you that I'm a Zermart, which means old. See, I can also speak fluent Armenian. I want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for this warm reception. I also want to thank the officers, directors, and members of the Armenian Bar Association for this prestigious lifetime award. It really means a lot to me. I also want to thank Judge Victoria Tevrizian Wilson and Philip Baker for their introductions. And finally, I want to thank my wife of 55 years, Geraldine, for putting up with me. You know, Philip remarked about some of the incidents in chambers, and those are supposed to be, you know, kept top secret. But Phil and Paul Salvati, where's Paul? Paul, stand up too. I want you to stand up. And Phil, you stand up. When these two gentlemen were in my chambers, as you can sit down now. When they were in my chambers and law clerks served for a year, they were wonderful young men. They're bright, and we had a lot of fun together. Phil Baker's father and I were fraternity brothers in college and we practiced law together. So he had an in when he applied for his job. Paul Salvati's father and I went to law school together. And you know, in law school you sit alphabetically, so there's S and then there's T. So Paul, father was a wonderful, wonderful guy, and you know, when we were in law school, his mother and his father, we would date together. We would double date, his parents and Geraldine and I. And unfortunately, Paul's father died at a very young age, and Paul has turned out to be just a real fine, outstanding lawyer. And I'm very close with Paul and his mother, and with Phil and his mother. We all grew up together, so it was always great to have them in chambers. And I remember, and I have two other people here that I want to introduce. Collis Culberson, why don't you stand? And then Collis was my trusted secretary for I don't know how many years, and Minna was I call her the top sergeant. She was the clerk that ran the courtroom. Before I got on the bench, she'd line everybody up, and boy, if they didn't toe the line, they didn't get their case called. But with the four of us in this 1 year that we had together, we had a great time. Every morning when I would come to the chambers, there'd be like 30 people, 35 people lined up, to have coffee, and we can use the coffee that they give us for the jurors, but we can't use it for personal. So Collis would chip in, Minna would chip in, I'd chip in, and we'd have 30 people for coffee, and Phil and Paul would be there. And there'd be 2 guys, Paul and Phil, and 28 women. They were all the female clerks of the building that would come in and have coffee with us. And I thought I was a popular guy, and they were all coming in to, share stories with each other. But they all were there because Phil and Paul at the time were single. They were good-looking guys with great futures. So we had a good time because when Paul and Phil rotated out, I came to work and there was nobody there anymore. So we had a lot of fun. But I want to share something very personal with you this evening. My life wasn't always as productive as you might think. In my youth, I suffered from a significant drug problem that has affected me throughout my adolescent years and my professional career. When I was growing up, every Sunday I was dragged or drugged to Sunday school in church. Monday through Friday I was drugged to school. When I wasn't in school, I was drugged to my family's construction job sites and forced into manual labor for minimal wages. I was also drugged to the backyard when I disobeyed my parents, didn't put on my best effort in everything that was asked of me. I am now a recovered drug addict, but those drugs are still in my veins and affect my behavior in everything that I do or say or think. They are stronger than cocaine, crack, marijuana, or heroin. I maintain that if today's children had this kind of a drug problem, America and our communities would be a better place to live. I want to thank my Armenian parents who drugged me to succeed in life. My judicial career covered 32 plus years of public service, which I really enjoyed. I spent over 10 years as a state court judge and over 22 years as a federal judge, and I believe I retired at the right time in my life. A lot of attorneys and individuals ask me if I miss the bench, and I truthfully answer that I don't miss it for a moment. They ask me what I do, and I tell them I'm a mediator and an arbitrator. Simply put, I move money from one side of the table to the other side and get paid handsomely for the privilege of doing it. I enjoy what I'm doing because I believe I am still making a difference in impacting people's lives in a different way. When I first graduated from law school in 1965, things were quite different. You could count the number of Armenian attorneys practicing in the Los Angeles and Orange County area on 2 hands. There weren't enough of us to form a bar association, and if we did, we could only have occupied a telephone booth. I would wager that the recent law school graduates in this room probably don't even know what a telephone booth is, or have never been in one. Also, as of 1965, the big elite law firms in this area did not generally interview or hire attorneys that were from various ethnic groups or had strange sounding last names like ours. In fact, my first job out of law school was for Arthur Anderson and Company as a tax accountant, not as an attorney. If it were not for my contacts and fraternity brothers from USC, I would not have been invited to join one of the large downtown law firms where I was accepted as an equal by Richard Kirtland and Robert Packard. Fortunately, times have changed, and many of you in this room are employed by or partners in national elite law firms. I share this information with you because when I first became a judge, I wanted to do something to have attorneys of Armenian descent or from various ethnic backgrounds get into the mainstream. Most of my law clerks and interns over my judicial career were from very diverse backgrounds. A lot of my colleagues, friends, and attorneys asked me why I employed so many young law students of differing ethnic backgrounds and origins. I replied that I am a resume enhancer. I felt that by allowing these bright young students to work in a federal judge's chambers, that would provide them with an opportunity to get their foot in the door to many law firms that would not ordinarily seek them out. I hope I succeeded and that many of you have had the opportunity to receive offers of employment and have excelled in the legal profession. A couple of other things. Gerard Kasabian said that I took him aside and told him that he should wear a black suit, a blue suit, or a gray suit, and a white shirt or a blue shirt. That's true. I had a book that was called Dress for Success, and I always would share this with a lot of the law students because I thought it was important that you present yourself well. I also told the Armenian gentlemen that served as law clerks in my chambers that they should always wear a white undershirt underneath their dress shirt. And they asked me why, and I said, because you have a lot of mas, and we don't want it. We don't want it protruding through your dress shirt. So I took him aside and told him, these are the things that they don't teach you in law school. Well, I'm going to teach you. I want to say something about Rafi Ovanesian, too. This man is really a patriot. I can't come up with another word other than he's a real hero and a patriot. Rafi was the Prime Minister of Armenia, I think it was in 1992, and came to the United States. And I remember this because this is the first, I think, thing that we did as the Bar Association that really meant something. The LA Times, Los Angeles Times, published a very unfavorable article about Armenia and Turkey. They favored Turkey over Armenia, and Rafi was in town. And the editor of Los Angeles Times, William Johnson, lived about 4 houses from him. So I went over to his house and I said, that was very unfair that your editorial staff wrote this terrible article, unfavorable article about the Armenians. So we arranged to have a meeting with the editorial board of the LA Times. Rafi was there, I think Archbishop Hovsepian, I think Archbishop Martirosyan, or Lapagin, I can't remember which one. And we went down to the LA Times, the editorial boardroom. We sat in the boardroom. And Rafi made one of the greatest presentations that I've ever heard. And the Los Angeles Times did something that they'd never done before. And that was that they published another editorial, basically reversing everything that they said in the first editorial. And it was for Rafi's brilliant discussion that he had at the LA Times editorial board that brought that change about. So I'll never forget that because I think that's what really put the Armenian Bar Association on its map, because it was formed not as a social club, but it was formed to really do something for the community. And it did something not only for the local community, but for the international community as well. So Rafi, thank you very much for that. Also, there was some talk that Victoria mentioned about the neighborhood legal services. Yesterday I received a letter from the president, Neil Dedovitz, and I want to read a portion of it to you. I wanted to let you know that Neighborhood Legal Services is still providing a new lawyer in the community through a special fellowship, which we continue to call NLSA, which is Neighborhood Legal Services of Los Angeles, Tevrizian Fellow. Our current fellow is Rosa Petrosian, who graduated from USC Law School in May of 2018, and was just sworn into the bar yesterday by Judge Paul Watford of the Ninth Circuit. Rosa, where are you? You're here. Stand up. Rosa and her family are immigrants from Armenia who live in Glendale, and she is the first lawyer in her family. I think she is exactly the kind of new lawyer that we had hoped to inspire to work in the poverty community when we created the Tevrizian Fellowship at the Neighborhood Legal Services of Los Angeles. Rosa will be attending the gala tomorrow, and I hope you will have a chance to meet her, which I did. Rosa is the second fellow that USC Law School has supported. The first was Lauren Kildigian, who we hired as a staff attorney after her fellowship ended, and is now one of our leading family law lawyers. In September, we'll be adding another Armenian lawyer to our Health Consumer Center as a UC Davis Fellow. Another goal of our naming our fellowship after you was to enhance our visibility in the Glendale, Burbank, Pasadena Armenian community and attract more Armenia-speaking lawyers to our program. When we started, there were none. In September, there will be 3. And this letter is the legacy that I wanted to leave behind, because it's helping each other, putting your hand out and helping your own. Before I conclude, I want to acknowledge a couple of people in the audience. Judge Christina Snyder and her husband Mark Seltzer. Christina served on the court with me when I was on the federal bench, but I knew Christina when she was going to law school. She was the daughter of Nate and Elizabeth Snyder, and Nate Snyder was quite a character. He was an all-around good-time lawyer, and Elizabeth Snyder was one of the most powerful women in California politics. She was the chief assistant to Senator Claire Engel. And I remember Christine's mother and father and my good friend Ed Roski built a condominium complex out in Palm Springs, and it was built, I think, 1974, and it was built when they had the first oil embargo, so the price of gasoline shot up, so nobody went to Palm Springs, and poor Elizabeth and Ed had this big condominium complex out there. And Ed called me, he says, Dick, he says, you got to help me out. I need to either buy one of these condominiums. I said, geez, Eddie, I need a condominium in Palm Springs. He says, you need one. So I bought one out there. I think I paid something like $50,000. By the time I sold it, I got $125,000. So it wasn't a bad deal after all. But I remember Christina would be studying, I think, through law school and for a bar examination out in Palm Springs. So I want to thank you for coming. I see over there Chris Louie. Chris is Elwood Louie's son. And Chris is now a judge of the Superior Court for the County of Los Angeles. And Chris, when he was a youngster with my children, would go out to the Green Jade restaurant in Chinatown and have Hunan food, when Hunan Chinese food became very, very popular. And then Elwood Louie, I see him over there too. Elwood is one of my oldest and dearest friends. Elwood and I went to high school together. And Elwood actually lived in the neighborhood that I lived in because my dad had a market, and Elwood's family lived about 2 blocks from the market on 4th Street. A little more than 2 blocks, 4 blocks on 4th Street. And so, I'd seen Elwood in the neighborhood, but when got to college, we became very good friends, and we've been friends throughout our lives. Elwood is the chief judge, he's a judge of the California Court of Appeal, called Justice Louis. But Elwood and I served on the municipal court together and the Superior Court together. But Elwood's been a very good friend, and he sits on this secret committee. It's not a secret anymore because I just told you about it. But this is the secret committee that vets all of the judicial applicants. And so every time an Armenian comes through the committee, I get a call from Elwood. Thumbs up, thumbs down. And Elwood will tell you I've never put a thumbs down on an Armenian yet. But we owe a lot to Elwood because he's probably one of the best examples of a sitting judge in the state of California, and I'm really proud to have him as my friend. I see Michael Armenian over here. Michael is a wonderful young man. He's also a judge of the Superior Court of the County of Los Angeles, state of California. And Michael's father and I were very, very good friends. Michael had one of the best fathers anyone could ever hope to have. And Michael's father also passed away at a very young age, and I was very fortunate to have Michael as a law clerk for a year. And I knew that he really belonged on the bench to carry on his father's legacy. And so, Michael, I'm so proud of you. I can't tell you. And then Victoria over there. Where'd she go? Oh, she's over here. Okay. Victoria was one of the smartest law clerks I've ever had. She came in and served, as a law clerk for 2 semesters, I think it was. Her father was dying of cancer, and she'd be there every day, doing her work. And I just thought that this was a young, exceptional person. And she went on to work in the Attorney General Office of the state of California. She handled some of the biggest high-profile cases for the AG that were pending in the Court of Appeal in the criminal section. I mean, I could tell you some of these cases, and they instantly would come to your mind because they were the top cases out of the Southern California area. And I'm so happy that she's now a judge of the Superior Court for the state of California as well. Let's see, who else do I have? Susan DeWitt. Susan DeWitt, I think, tried a case before me. It was one of my last cases, I think, was on the bench. It was a very, very serious case. It was the one that we actually tried was 2 of many defendants that were charged, but they were illegal Russian immigrants that came into the United States and part of the Russian mafia, and they killed 5 people. And she handled that case, resulted in the conviction of these 2 gentlemen, and the jury recommended the death penalty for both, and I imposed it on both. And in the 9th Circuit, which is the most liberal circuit in the United States, affirmed the convictions. So Susan now is also a judge of the Superior Court of the County of Los Angeles. And I see Zavan Sanagan out there. I swore Zavan in when he became a judge of the Superior Court, and he's done remarkably well sitting in civil. And I'm very happy that Zavan is here tonight as well. He's very active in the Armenian Bar Association, so Zavan, we thank you. Are there any other judges in the room that I haven't Susan Bush. Susan is retired now. She was on the Superior Court and was one of the best judges that we have. And she has been a good friend and has been a terrific person and and a great supporter of the Armenian Bar Association. Susan is Armenian, doesn't have an Armenian last name, is Bulgara, and but she is a wonderful person. I'm very happy to have you had a great and long, distinguished career. Let's see, who else do we have here? Oh, Ruth Kwan. Where's Ruth? Did she leave? Ruth?
She's gone.
She left. She was another great person and has been very close with the Armenians. I remember one of my relatives was doing some earthquake rehabilitation work and did some work for her husband Stan. And Stan told my relative that, you know, his wife was a city attorney and wanted to become a judge. And so I was asked to have dinner with them one night, and I had dinner with them, and I remember Ruth because she had tried some cases before me on behalf of the city attorney's office. She did a lot of consumer fraud cases, and she impressed me, and so I recommended her to Elwood and you know, their soul brother and soul sister, so it took over, and she became a judge. Let's see, how many other law clerks do I have in this room? I'd like to have them stand up as well. Yeah, let them stand up. Okay. Lena? Colleen, that's my goddaughter. I have to look. Let's see, who else do I have? Well, not too many more here.
How about extern?
Oh, extern. How about my extern? Okay, your arm is here. Nari, Ghana. Who?
Tina, James.
Yeah, Jim Tevrizian is here. Now, put this on the back burner. You're going to hear some very good things about Jim Tevrizian in the not-so-distant future. So just put that on the back burner. I don't want to share any more, but he's going to surprise you. Okay. Anyway, let me just start out. Let me just finish this. I have a joke. So I want to finish on a joke here. There was an Armenian businessman who was in a great deal of trouble. His business was failing. He had put everything he had into his business. He owed everybody money. It was so bad he was even contemplating suicide. As a last resort, he went to see the priest of the local Armenian church. He poured out his story, filled with tears and woe. When he finished, the priest said, "Here's what I want you to do. Put a beach chair and your Bible in your car and drive down to the beach. Take the beach chair and Bible down to the water's edge, sit down in the beach chair, and put the Bible on your lap. Then open the Bible and let the wind rifle through the pages and wait until the Bible opens. Wait until the open Bible comes to rest on a page. Look down at that page and read the first thing you see. That will be the answer to your problems. That will tell you what to do. May God bless you." A year later, the businessman went back to the priest and brought his wife and children with him. The businessman was wearing a new custom-tailored suit. His wife was wearing designer clothing and a diamond necklace. The children all had laptop computers to entertain them. The businessman pulled out an envelope stuffed with money from his pocket and gave it to the priest as a donation in thanks for the priest's advice. The priest recognized the benefactor and was curious. "You did as I suggested?" the priest asked. "Absolutely," replied the businessman. "You went to the beach?" the priest asked. "Absolutely," replied the businessman. "You sat in the beach chair with the Bible on your lap?" again asked the priest. "Absolutely," answered the businessman. "You let the wind rifle the pages until they stopped?" the priest asked. "Absolutely," answered the businessman. "And what were the first words that you saw?" asked the priest. Chapter 11 was he replied. With that,